Welcome back to the How to Podcast series. It's Dave with you again. Hope everything's well. We're getting dangerously close to the end of 2024. Have you noticed? Have you looked at the clock? Have you looked at the calendar? We're getting really close to the end of this year. And we've had a good year here on the podcast. Great guest co-hosts, like some of the most amazing podcasters in the space, coming here to share their journey with you as a podcaster and what they're learning, how they're growing, and introducing you to new shows. If you are listening to the show and you haven't been on the How to Podcast series yet, and you're a podcaster or you're thinking about becoming a podcaster, you have an idea, then I'm inviting you on in 2025. Would love to have you come join the family here at the How to Podcast series, because this whole place is built around you. We really want to help you grow your show, continue podcasting, keep podcasting, and we throw in some great podcasting tips to help you. We try to do the little daily Daves, which happen probably more frequently coming into 2025. We're going to try to do more of those because some great feedback on those shorter episodes. More great guest co-host episodes as well, because we love hearing from you. But I would love to invite you on the show. So please keep me in mind. You can always reach out to me. There's a calendar invite on the howtopodcast.ca website. Remember, .ca, because I'm in Canada. Howtopodcast.com, you might not want to go there. But howtopodcast.ca is where I am, and I'd love to connect with you and to be in your corner, supporting you in your journey as a podcaster. Now, one of my favorite shows from back in the day is a show about nothing, which unfortunately there's a lot of podcasts that are a podcast about nothing. But this show, Seinfeld, really a great show. One of the episodes that really I love was when Elaine danced at a party and the whole place just stared at her incredibly awkward dance. And the one thing that I wanted to talk about today was I want to compare your podcast to your dancing abilities. I'm not sure how good of a dancer you are. I can tell you that I am not a dancer. I'm a musician. I'm the guy who plays in the band who gets you to dance, but I suck at dancing. My wife is completely frustrated with that. We didn't have a dance at my wedding at all, because I would have been horrible. Yeah. So anyways, so my wife loves dancing. She loves that, all that. That's her thing. I just no. So I am worse than Elaine in the dance department. And I want to compare podcasting to dancing here on the How to Podcast series. Are you ready? Let's spin you around the dance floor. Let's jump out on the floor and let's shake those boots, I guess we should say, is an appropriate way to say that. Shake your boots on the How to Podcast series.
Elaine, dance.
It's more like a full-body dry heave. Set the music.
One of the things I hear from podcasters all the time is, Dave, I have a podcast. I've been doing it for X amount of time, months, years, whatever. And I want to grow my show. I want to get in front of more people. And like dancing, it's my question to anybody that wants to grow their show is, A, before you start promoting your show to the world and telling people to come and listen to your show or watch your show on YouTube, is your show worth promoting? And people get their back up a little bit. They're like, wait a minute, Dave, come on. I thought you were nice. I just want to ask. I could open a restaurant today in my neighborhood and make sushi. I guess you don't technically make sushi. You cut sushi. Anyway, I don't eat sushi. I could have a sushi restaurant and it could suck. Like, it could be terrible. The food could be horrible. The quality could be horrible. It could be a messy place. It could be like I just threw things together and ta-da, I got a store. I got a restaurant. Now, would I want to advertise that store and a restaurant and have people come to that location if it's not that great? Like, maybe that's not a great idea to throw money into advertising something that's not quite done yet. Like, when you're cooking something in the oven and it's kind of done, but not kind of done, you wouldn't want to serve that to your family, to your friends, if you knew that it just wasn't really great. I like to say to podcasters, make sure that you're creating something you're proud of. Get feedback on your podcast before you start throwing money at it to try to grow your audience. There's a lot of great ways to do that. We're going to talk about that in 2025. Some ways that you can monetize and make some money, and maybe also how you can advertise as well, the other side of it, to help you grow your audience. We had some great ideas for you coming up in the new year around that, and love for you to stick around for that. But before you get to the part where you're going to start putting money out, your hard-earned money to promote your show, my question is to you, is it promotable? Are you happy with it? Have you ever had feedback on your show? I see in Facebook groups, podcasters saying, well, I asked my family and they said I was great. I put it in front of my wife and she said, even though I don't listen to podcasts, I'm proud of you. Looks great. Sounds great. But they don't understand podcasting. They don't understand what the podcasting community is looking for from a listener's perspective, because they're asking people who don't listen to podcasts what they think of their podcast. And they're getting pats on the head, pats on the shoulders, like, well done, great job. Wow, you did a podcast. That's amazing. What's a podcast? And they're getting feedback and they're being told that everything's great. That you sound awesome on your laptop mic. You sound great in a coffee shop with 25 people talking behind you. You sound awesome. I'm so proud of you. Well done. You have a podcast. My question to you is, have you had any type of feedback around your podcast? Anything to kind of give you some parameters on things you're doing well, things you're not doing well? And every dance movie clip thing where people are learning how to dance, whether it's your kids or you as an adult, ballroom dancing, whatever. What's on the wall in the dance studio? What is plastered all over the wall besides like hanging their posters with a cat hanging from a limb? What else? Mirrors. Now, why are there mirrors on all of the wall? Like full length, floor to ceiling, huge mirrors. Why are they there? They're to reflect back to you and give you feedback, instant feedback on how you're doing as a dancer. Are you hitting the moves? Are you hitting your spots? Are you stepping on your partner's toes? Do you look like Elaine in that moment trying to dance when she had no business dancing? Maybe because Elaine never had feedback on her dance style. People talked about her behind her back. People made comments about her really awkward dancing, but no one ever helped Elaine to be a better dancer. Now, you're a podcaster, you're putting your stuff out into the world, and you might have people talking behind your back going, well, that podcast Dave does really is, I don't know, I listened, but no, just wasn't for me. I wish he did this, and this. If he did these things, I would probably listen to his show, but I'm not going back. That conversation might be happening behind the scenes for your show. And this goes back to that retention problem where people are saying, Dave, my show's not growing. And my question to them is your show not growing, or are you not keeping your listeners? Like, are you still getting a steady stream of new people coming to you? But when they come to you, there's something about your show that makes them go, no. Could be the content, could be the length of your show, could be you as the host, could be the quality of the audio. There's a number of things that make people make a decision in the moment whether or not you are their person. So I want to help you nail down and kind of work on some of those things that might turn a potential listener of your show away. Let's address that, because in doing that, we keep more people staying longer in our podcast, which then every new person coming is added to our community, and we don't have people leaving as fast as they come. You might not have a growth problem. You might have a retention problem. People come and they go. We want to keep more people coming and less people leaving in our podcast. So getting feedback about your show before you put it out into the world and say, hey, everybody, try my sushi, or hey, everybody, check out my sick dance moves on the dance floor, you're going to want some feedback from somebody who's done something like open a restaurant and serve sushi, asking customers to try your food before you promote it, or asking somebody who knows how to dance if you're dancing okay. And maybe they have a few tips, they have some experience in dancing that could make you a better dancer. By reaching out to a podcast consultant, somebody like me, I can help you when you don't know the answer to the questions that you don't even know to ask. I can be the one to give you that kind of feedback and help you. Always happy to do so. And what I offer to people who come to me is I do it out of kindness. I come to you out of generosity and gratefulness for the opportunity to help you. I'm not here to make fun of you. There's podcasters in our podcasting world that will openly mock you for what they think is terrible podcasting. And those people are horrible people, and they for some reason are still promoted as the voices of podcasting. And I wanted to fight against that with this show by giving you a safe place to get great feedback that builds you up and doesn't tear you down. It goes back to the American Idol versus The Voice. I've mentioned it many, many times here on the show. American Idol, you have judges who judge you on your podcast and judge you on stage on the show as a singer. They're just there to judge. They cast judgment on you and they talk down to you. Compared to The Voice, where they don't see you before they hear you, they get to experience your voice and then make a decision whether or not they can coach you. They're not there to judge, they're there to coach. So people will say they are a podcast coach, but they are in true terms a podcast judge. And you need to avoid them at all costs, because they're just going to throw you a bunch of things that work for them that may never work for you. And they're basing their judgments and their teachings on what happened 20 years ago in podcasting. They're not up to date on what's happening today. So please be careful when you're choosing a podcast coach, and don't fall into the trap of inadvertently hiring a podcast judge. And if you have any questions, reach out to me. I can definitely answer those questions for you. So I think we need to spend some time getting some feedback on what we're doing in podcasting before we get out and start promoting our show to the world, and before we start spending a single penny on any type of promotion, advertisements, any of that stuff. We need to make sure we have a good quality show. And there's several things that we've talked about on this podcast to ensure that you're on the right path. We'll kind of touch on them, but the big thing is you need feedback on your skills as a dancer, aka a podcaster, by someone who knows what they're talking about.
Did she do the little kicks and the thumbs?
What, you mean you know about this?
For some time.
Okay, so my question for you is, what are your little kicks? What are your little thumbs? And if you've never watched the clip from Seinfeld, I'll put a clip in the links for you to watch what we're talking about here, and you'll see what's going on here. But maybe for you as a podcaster, nobody's ever told you about your little kicks and your thumbs in your podcast. And you're like, I didn't even know this was a thing. I didn't even realize that my audience was having this negative experience on my show. So what are some of the top reasons that people stop listening to podcasts? What are some of the top reasons they stop listening to your podcast? There's issues around your content. Your content can just be really actually boring. The topics become really repetitive or uninteresting, and listeners just lose interest in you or your topic or whatever. They just think you're boring. The other part is just there's a lack of research. There's a lack of effort put into creating the content from episode to episode. I've been listening to some shows that have been around for like 500, 600, 900 episodes. And back when they were early in their journey as a podcaster, you can tell they poured their heart into every episode. And now it feels like the podcast is an afterthought. It feels like It's something they have to do because they want to keep their stellar record of never missing an episode over X number of years. And it's almost to the point where they're just recording an episode so they can keep their streak alive, but the content really has suffered. And it gets to the point where I can almost tell you what they're going to say next because they have like 10 speaking points that they share on every episode, and they have the same stories. They haven't lived anything new in the last 10 years, it feels like. And it's so sad because these people are great people, and you can tell they're just phoning it in as a podcaster. So a lack of research and being boring, your content can actually turn people away. What else? What about just the presentation of the podcast itself? There could be, when we look at the presentation for your show and as we listen to your podcast, one of the things I'm listening for is bad audio quality. Now, you don't have to have a studio. You don't have to have a $2,000 microphone. You don't have to have all this stuff that all the other gurus tell you have to buy. You just have to have good audio quality. We just need to be able to understand what you're saying when we listen to your show. There's a lot of great tools that can make you sound great. But the thing is, you got to be clear. And when I meet with guests who come on my show who have never been a guest on a podcast, they don't have all this equipment. They've done 0 interviews on a podcast before. They have what they have. So there's little tools and tricks that you can do to make you sound the best you can be with the equipment you have. But if you're going to do this for an extended period of time, then my recommendation for you is to invest something into your audio quality so that it makes it better for your audience to experience your show. If you sound like you're talking to the audience from another room, if you sound like you're speaking underwater, your audience might put up with it for a period of time, but just like Elaine's dancing, it's going to put people off. People are going to walk away shaking their heads going, "What was that?" And it's sad because it's something you can easily fix with just some help. So again, if you want to learn how to dance, go to somebody who teaches dancing so that you can be a better dancer. And if you want to be a podcaster, go to somebody who teaches podcasting and helps podcasters so that you can be a better podcaster. There is really no excuse when there's people out here in the world, my hands up in the air, who can help you to have a better show. Let's fix your audio quality once and for all so that you don't have to worry about it anymore. As well, another presentation problem that makes people stop listening to your show, too many ads. Like excessive amount of ads, where it feels like it's an ad with a podcast attached instead of being a podcast with ads. It feels like you've gone way too far with too many. And it is very off-putting, as people would say, and that's not like a pudding you eat, but putting you off. And it's not something that I have, you've noticed, if you've listened to any of my shows, I would dare you to count how many ads I have in my shows. I'm pretty sure 0, because I don't have ads, because I don't like them. I'd much rather create income through other ways than to subject you to some random ad for something that you may or may not even be interested in. You just might have too many ads in your show. And that's something you need to get feedback on. And if you don't know, you don't know. So please, if you need help with this, reach out to me, howtopodcast.ca. The other one would be super long intros and repetitive outros. What do I mean by this? So when your intro is like 2 minutes to your show, where you have music that goes on and on and on, there's nobody even talking. It's like, what is this? You have a super long intro where you talk about all the things and how great you are and blah, 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 blah. And then my guests, how great they are, blah, 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 blah. And oh, some more music, blah, 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 blah. And here's my program, blah, blah, blah. Here's my book, blah, 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 blah. And 2 minutes in, I still haven't heard anything new yet. And then the other thing is the outro. When you have the exact same outro that you have as the intro, realize that your listeners might be listening to your episodes back to back. So episode 5 to episode 6, I hear your intro, I hear your outro, I hear your intro, I hear your outro. It's the same thing back and back to back, and it's so annoying. So please, be careful in how you present your show to the world. And if you're not sure, ask for feedback. I would love to help you. Another thing that can make your listeners just exit your podcast en masse is the dynamics of the host. There's a podcast about podcasting, try to keep this as generic as possible, where the host proclaims to have a faith-based approach to life. And again, I'm nobody's judge at all. But this same host will, in their podcast, when they talk about their faith, then they also talk about sex. They talk about, they openly cuss and swear, whatever you want to call. Again, I'm no prude. I'm not going to melt. But if you're going to promote one side and then live the other side, that's called a lack of integrity, where either drop the faith-based stuff and go all blue and go do your thing and be radical and extreme, or maybe lighten up on the extreme and focus on your faith. Again, I'm not your judge, but as a listener, when I'm coming expecting one thing that you say you promote, and then you do the exact opposite for shock value, maybe, I don't know. I have no understanding of why you dance between the two, why you dance between the two elements in your podcast. I don't understand how a faith-based conference can have you as a speaker when you talk about sex on your show and you talk in a demeaning way about women and non-binary people and trans people. And I don't understand how you're celebrated on stage for being this light in podcasting, yet you're so negative to people. I just don't get it. So I find that annoying behavior of hosts where you bait and switch, where you say you're this, but then you show up as that. And you try to be everything to everyone, and you're nobody to nobody by doing that. Hosts who dominate the conversation in an interview, I find extremely annoying. When you're talking over your guest and your guest is like, yeah, I agree. Yeah, and your guest is trying to respond to you, but you as the host keep shutting them down because you want to hear the sound of your own voice. It's so unprofessional. It can really turn off an audience. I will stop listening to your show if you talk over your guest and make them look small. I'll stop listening to you. And maybe you're not even aware that you're doing it, and you need an outside perspective to go, hang on, why are you cutting them off? Stop talking over them and let them finish their thought before you speak again. The other one is just dislikable hosts. If listeners find the host unlikable or controversial or rude or disgusting or just like horrible as a human, they're going to stop listening to your show and they're going to unsubscribe to you. So when I hear people complain about all of the drop in listens on their show, and they don't even understand that the way they're presenting their show is making people leave, I don't get the connection there. I don't understand why they don't see the results of their actions. So again, I'm not a prude. You can have any show that you want to have, but just do that show and do it your best. There's going to be people who are going to love your show, and they love when you go crazy and you do all this funny stuff and you're rude and you're short with people and you're sarcastic. Then be that, but then don't pretend to be somebody who's kind, generous, and caring, who builds people up. You can't do them both and do them well at the same time, right? There's a saying, you can't serve two masters. Anyways, it's kind of along those lines. You got to pick one. Who are you going to serve and who's your audience? Don't try to be everything to everybody. The other thing that can make people stop listening to your show is the engagement and interaction between the host and the audience.
It's one of those problems I hope would just go away.
Well, sometimes you can't help these people till they hit rock bottom.
And by then you've lost interest.
Having zero interaction with your audience, like nothing at all, is a quick way to lose your audience. When you post to social media and then never respond, when you put your stuff out and you ask your audience to respond to a question or a poll, and they do, and you do nothing with it, you delete it, you have no reciprocal nature of interaction between host and guest. And it's from the host perspective. It's so hard to get people to respond to your show. And then if they do and you do nothing with it, you're going to break that trust. A lack of community engagement can make listeners feel totally disconnected from your show. As well, inconsistent quality. Variability in episode quality can lead to uncertainty about the future of the content and the future of the show. Could be how frequent you do the show, the quality of the content, the topic of the show changes so much. And it makes your audience scratch their head and go, why am I here? And as soon as you have people questioning why they're listening to your show, they're quickly looking for the exit. So please, do something today to erase those fears for your listener and help them to understand they're in the right place. You're the right human for them. This is the right show for them to be a part of. And you need to prove that in every episode. And then the last part about this, the reasons why people might leave your show, is just the changing interests of your listeners and you as a host. So if this show was called the How to Start a Podcast series, putting the word start in the title, then I've narrowed my audience down to people who are starting a show. So I purposely didn't do that. This isn't the How to Start a Podcast series. This is the How to Podcast series. We talk about starting. Yes, we obviously do that. But it's more than just starting your show. It's continuing with your show through podcasting tips and things to make your show better, and feedback and community, resources, tools and tricks to make your podcast better. That's what the show's about. It's about the longevity of your show, not just starting a show. And that's why I purposely picked this title for this podcast. It's crystal clear. This is How to Podcast. That's what the name of the show is. And that's what we do every episode, every guest, co-host. It's focused on you and continuing your journey long after starting a show. But I've noticed that in some cases, podcasters start with a topic, and over time, either they run out of ideas, they don't do research anymore, they're not growing in that space anymore, they've walked away from it, they begin to evolve their content. And what started out as a podcast for women becomes a podcast for women who are divorced, becomes a podcast for women who are dating, becomes a podcast for women who are recently remarried. And in all of those different stages, some of your audience might drop off because you've gone to a new place they're not going to in their current role. And they loved you for the first part, but now they're not really into what you're talking about now. That's a general thing that can happen over time. And you will lose some people in your content. People stop listening to this show. It happens over time, and you need to be okay with the fact that people will come, people will go. I can see it on my stats. I can see 3 new listens or 3 new followers. Oh, 1 less follower. Okay, well, I hope that while you're here, you're getting what you need for your show. And if you're not getting what you need, then please, there are so many other shows out there. I hope you'll find what you're looking for. I wish you well. But as you leave, I would love to hear why, so that maybe I can fix that for the other people that you represent who listen to the show. So keep in mind, people are going to come, people are going to go. It's natural. But as you evolve your tastes, your listeners' interests will change over time. They might lead them to seek new content. Maybe they listened to the show originally because they wanted to start a podcast. They tried it. They didn't like it. Now they're leaving. There's not much I can do about that if you've decided to stop podcasting. This show's not for you then. You need to move on to a podcast about how to write a book or how to get on stage and speak, how to become a movie star. I don't know. Whatever you want to be, then that's where you need to go. And this show won't serve you anymore because starting a podcast and being a podcaster is not in your plans for the future, then I wish you well. Thank you for being part of the community. We want to make sure that we as hosts are evolving, are keeping our core content and keeping our audience engaged throughout. As we keep our customers engaged, our podcast should focus on interesting content, great audio quality, engaging hosts and co-hosts and guests, and as well building a community around our podcast. So let's just do these together, all right? Keep our listeners engaged. Howtopodcast.ca. You have a SpeakPipe link. You have my calendar link. You have a way to email me. Let's talk to each other. And I love hearing from you. And I will respond. I think I've proven that over 359 episodes. That's who I am. And that's why I do this. I'm here for you. I'm not here to sell you something. I'm here to support you. So keep your listeners engaged. Products should focus on interesting content. I'm trying to do as much as I can in and around podcasting so that you can learn and get the information you need without all that stuff that you don't need. This isn't a tech show. This isn't a microphone show. This isn't a video camera show. This isn't a audio recording show. This is a podcast about podcasting. And we get into the mental side of this, the motivation side of this, the support side of this, without getting caught up in all that other stuff. There's other podcasts that do that. I get lost in the jargon. I don't even know what they're talking about. So I wanted to give you something different here. So focus on interesting content, good audio quality. I hope you're enjoying it. Let me know if there's something I can do better. Engaging hosts, co-hosts, and guests. The amazing people who have been on the show, I've learned so much from, and I hope you're learning as well. And then building a community. This podcast is built around community. What are we doing here? Through our meetups, through all the events and things we're doing to connect you with each other. I want you to talk to a fellow listener, and I want to talk to you. I want this to be an ongoing conversation long after you hit stop on this episode. That you know there's somebody out there that's in your corner who wants to work with you, who wants to support you, who can answer your questions, who will respond to your messages. That's what this podcast is all about. And I'd love to have you join our meetups. Again, they're free. Right now they're on Saturdays. And being a part of that, I think, would be a great way to continue to grow as a podcaster. It's super important for us as podcasters to continue growing. And I would hope that this show would continue to be that support for you as you continue in your podcast journey. If you need help with anything we talked about today around helping you with your content, helping you with how you present your podcast, helping you with the dynamics of you as the host, maybe you just need to step it up a little bit and you need some feedback on that. Your engagement, your interaction with your audience, if you're having struggles with that, and you're just chasing your content around and you're really not sure as your podcast evolves what your next step is, and you'd love to sit down with somebody and just have a conversation, everything is on the howtopodcast.ca website as well. In the show notes, there's a link just for listeners of this show who listen to the end of each episode like you are. You can jump into my calendar, and that's a special free link. No sales, no nothing, just use it as many times as you want. And let's talk about your podcast and help you grow your show. I'm here for you. The whole reason I'm doing this is for you. And I'd love to be a part of your community. And I'd love to listen to your show. Always looking for a new podcast to listen to. And I'd love to support you and do all the ratings, reviews, all that stuff. Whatever you need, I'm here to help you. Thanks for listening to the show. Get out there on the dance floor. Shake your boots. I was going to say it. Shake your boots. But make sure that you practice in front of the mirror. Understand what good looks like. Have a good concept. Ask somebody who's done it before if your dance moves have enough to get out on that floor. But the biggest thing in all of this, and what I love about what Elaine did, even though her dance moves were really not that great, is out of a room full of people who stood there with drinks in hand, she was the first to step out and do something that other people wouldn't do. And as a podcaster, I want to celebrate you right now, that in a world of people in your family, friends, your home, your community, How many other podcasters are you related to within your social circles? Probably slim to none. For me, zero. I have nobody in my extended family, community, places, the people that I talk to who actually podcast. So I am a podcaster of one, and it is lonely. But you took a stand. You took a step forward onto that dance floor like Elaine did when everyone else just stood back holding their drinks. So congratulations to you for doing something no one else does. You've done something special. You have a message for the world. You have something to say. If it's to entertain somebody and make them smile in a world that's just crap, then that's what we need from you. If you have a story that can help somebody's life, your podcast can save a human being. Your podcast can make a difference beyond whatever you can see in your stats. So I'm encouraging you to be the voice and the face of your audience so that they can connect with you. Get out on that dance floor, do your thing, but get feedback before you get out there and show the world what you got. And I'm here to help you with that. howtopodcast.ca. Thanks for listening. So I get asked quite often, usually at the end of a podcast, like right now, Dave, how can we help you? Like, how can we, as a listener, like, support the show? Can we come rake your leaves? Can we cut the grass? Shovel the snow? Watch your dog? Help you move? What can we do? Clean your dishes? Oh, that'd be interesting. Well, if you can't do that because, you're in Poland, maybe you can help us by supporting us with our Buy Me a Coffee. It's right there on our website. And, it just will help us to, A, stay fueled because, we drink a lot of coffee around here. And it helps the show. So if you want to help us, it's out of the goodness of your heart. I can tell you that listening to the podcast to this point, you've already helped us so much. But I do have people saying, Dave, I'd love to give back something small, even just to the show. Buy Me a Coffee link is on our website at howtopodcast.ca. And you can support the show that way. It would mean a lot to have you on our team supporting what we do here. If you find value in the show, then that's great. Share the show, tell somebody about it. And when somebody says, Dave, I want to start a podcast, who should I check out? Oh, you should go check out the How to Podcast series because of all the great co-hosts and all the things that happen here, the meetups, everything. And I would appreciate that. And then fill our cup once in a while if you can. But again, thank you so much for being here and supporting the How to Podcast series. Take care. Talk soon.